Hello and welcome to the Future of Classical Music. I'm David Taylor and this is my show about big ideas and the people behind them. Today, I'm talking with Christopher Widauer, CEO of AMS and former Head of Digital and Development at the Vienna State Opera. Christopher has a wide-ranging career with a speciality in all things digital. This includes the introduction of 2,100 tablets for interactive infotainment and seatback subtitling in Vienna, but also consulting for organisations like Cairo Opera and Teatro alla Scala on their digital transformation, and being involved with the digital sheet music app Newzik. Now, we talked a lot about digital in this episode, covering a lot of bases, including how to bring your audience and your organisation with you when innovating, the death of Google, and the role of artists in the digital age. Oh, and of course, we talked a little bit about AI as well. Now, this chat is a long one and there is so much packed into it, so I'll keep this intro short. I hope you enjoy. Let's jump in. So, Christopher, it is so nice to see you. Thank you so much for finding time to join me on the podcast. You are the Chief Executive Officer of AMS. You are also the former Head of Digital Development at the Vienna State Opera. You've been involved in so much digital. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to dive into things.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, your journey is incredible, and I think it's also very timely. It seems to be a lot in the digital world, and this month marks 20 years of YouTube. So I can't think of anyone better to chat to about the state of digital and particularly digital video in the classical music industry.
Let's go.
Wonderful. So with your time at Vienna State Opera, you were involved in a huge amount of digital implementation, including, I think it was 1,200 screens for audience members in the seats.
2,100.
2,100, even more. And they were sort of in the back of people's seats, if that's right, for interaction, various things. It's such an incredible amount of innovation. In my sort of like preconceptions of opera and potentially opera within Austria as well, as it's quite a conservative outlet, how do you begin to bring an audience along on a digital journey like this?
I mean, you know, the first thing is why call it digital? Call it a service. Call it for your comfort. Call it a little kind of a, yes, maybe technology-based service, but helping you enjoy. So true, the Vienna State Opera had already a seatback subtitling system, but it was only subtitles, like in the Metropolitan Opera, Liceo in Barcelona. So you have those systems where you can read along the subtitles with the show. And when this system reached the end of its lifespan, its calculated lifespan, we thought about replacing, of course. It had to be replaced, couldn't be kept up anymore. No spare parts, no more options to services and to maintain it. So we looked into the options, and I was strongly arguing at that time to replace it by something more interactive, more communicative, a real digital touch point to your public. And true, so in the end, yes, we decided to go for that and examined all the options, and some we developed because it didn't exist before, certainly not in that manner to that extent. So we thought or let's say we had this little bit of kind of a same fear, let's say, even that you just expressed, that we had in Vienna, or have in Vienna, a fairly traditional audience. I mean, more or less all operas have fairly traditional audiences. I don't see much of a difference between, at least, say, European or US opera houses. So the idea was, or the fear was, not to overwhelm that traditional public by digital technology. So, meaning the fear was, or we were a bit like skeptical. How would people approach it? How would people adapt it? Wouldn't people maybe like react? I'm just I've just switched my computer off in the office, and then I come to the opera, and what I see is a computer.
Yeah.
Or do I now have to study this technology to fully enjoy the opera? Why is that there? So that was, of course, some of the considerations that we had. In fact, and this brought us also to step-by-step strategic implementation of all the options and functionalities. So we started off only with subtitles and with, I really wanted that, with the option of subscribing to a newsletter, but not many of the other like interactive opportunities and functionalities of the system. And in fact, it turned out that people embraced it, adopted it from the first moment on. So already in the first season, we had about 15,000 subscriptions to newsletters, and people really were asking for more. So now that thing is there, so give me the full service. So I think even the traditional public now, I mean, I am really the exact average, even higher than the average of the age average of opera audiences in Vienna, probably also in many other cities, and it's a little. I mean, it's funny to call the kids now digital natives, because they are in a way, yes, but they don't. They have no understanding at all what happens inside those machines. So they are familiar, or they know nothing else but a smartphone that not even has any button anymore. So it's just there. It's just full of functionalities, and nobody really cares where it comes from. My generation, we really lived through the full development of that technology. So when I started to run a festival for Nicolas Arnoncourt, mid-80s, 87 in Graz, we developed a ticketing system, but we had to develop it from scratch. It was the first PC-based digital ticketing solution and system. So I consider myself to be fairly digital native, yes, so to speak, to have lived that through. So if my age companions, if they are in the opera, I think nobody would really be overwhelmed by technology. So don't fear that. Or at least certainly don't take it as an excuse not to offer services.
Certainly. I always think there's a common misconception that digital or technology is only sort of the world of people who are young.
Yes.
And in fact, it is for people who are of all ages.
Yes. Yes.
We are here at the Classic Violin Olympus in Dubai, and I came here 4 years ago. I went to Dubai Opera House. And one of my favourite concert-going moments of all time was a woman in front of me who must have been late 60s, early 70s at one point, picked up her phone, turned it so the screen was facing the audience, and just held it out at arm's length for about a minute. Mm-hmm. At the stage. Mm-hmm. I had absolutely no idea what she was doing. She turned it round, and she was using Shazam to try and find out what the piece was. And so it's something that people can be for people of all ages.
That's cool.
I couldn't believe it. And it was,
That's cool. And she found out. Eventually.
Sadly, no, it was Glazunov 4 and Shazam was not picking it up, sadly. so it was getting there. But it was a great example. There were free concert programs, and she didn't perceive that would be the normal way to find out. It would be through technology, which is fascinating. I love in that story that the feedback was instantly, what can we do more, rather than we hate this.
Yes.
Was there any negative pushback in those scenarios?
Not that I know. So really not. I mean, there were some funny remarks like, why don't you make the font for the subtitles as big as it has been before? In fact, it was bigger, but the screen was bigger. So people thought the font is smaller. We reacted and made it a little bit bigger because it still had space. And we did, with all the learnings from Vienna, we also did this same, not the same, but a very similar installation in La Scala. Also, La Scala Milan had those 2 or 3 line only subtitle seatback displays, and we replaced them also with fully fledged tablet computers. And there, I'm happy that there was a lot of discussion, of course, but I'm happy that we decided that La Scala also was willing to follow the recommendation of including a plug, a jug, to be able to connect something. So, for example, you can connect earphones that are distributed by the Scala, so that that the house controls the volume and the, let's say, acoustic pollution to neighboring patrons. So you can plug in such an earphone for an audio description for people with seeing visual impairments. They can then enjoy more of the show that's going on. And now also, you might have seen that even, certainly heard of, there are kind of T-shirts that vibrate. Whole little industry has developed around that option to make people with hearing impairments also able to enjoy opera. So you just plug it in and you have the signal for that going out. Or you have also, like for kids, you can have any kind of additional educational content. As the Scala, I think also Vienna will be certainly moving in that direction, but all those systems now are far more open and far easier to use. So it's far easier to ingest content, to do also experimental and innovative things with these computers, because so much more than only a few lines of text. So, for example, text or librettos, texts in simplified language for people who are like me, not really able to watch an opera and to read along the 18th century Italian subtitles in the full length of the text. You know, that's like boo, 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 and you read and read and read. So it's so abbreviate that or make it easier to get also for children, or have any kind of additional content. Also, you can synchronize content also on video with the shows on stage. So there's so many options that now I think in La Scala will be used a little bit more than in the house in Vienna, where we really paved the way for a lot of that technology.
Certainly, and I guess with that there's a huge element of variety and choice with this. And I was thinking, as we were talking comparisons to, say, the airline industry, and historically that you would watch the film that was playing at the front of the aeroplane and that was the one you got to choose from. And now, like on my flight over here, there was a kid playing chess on his back of the seat entertainment system. So in the scenario,
I think we won't offer chess playing show during the show. I mean, before, in the interval and after, nothing against, but during, I think most opera houses would be a little bit more restrictive.
True. But the idea that, say, you could be sat next to someone who is a child or a first-time opera goer with an experience where they're learning in a way that's very informative, and someone next to them getting a full Schenkerian analysis, it's audio description, without it being disturbing in the same way that just the one-screen subtitles would have been.
And you know that also now with all the AI-driven text generation and so generative AI options, it has become so much more easier also for smaller houses that don't have a 10-people educational department and an 8-people dramaturgy or whatever. It has become so much easier to create that content. So to say, here is a libretto of the opera, give me an abridged version, and now give me a version for people that won't really have fun with specific terminology or whatever kind of complicated words. So it has become like, this is really the push of a button. And this, as opposed to many other things that are promised by AI, this really works. So that really works, and it's really nice to use. And then you have this system to really also bring that content to the people.
I'm going to jump around in my questions because you've brought up AI, and it's the perfect segue. So thank you for setting me up. And I think you mentioned sort of the unlike some of the other promises, this works. We've seen AI. There's great potential for all these incredible things, but also at the same time, it's significantly worse than what we've been promised. With Apple being a good example, where
it's this incredible technology, and the new iPhone whole campaign's about AI, and so far I can make a custom emoji, get some notifications that don't work, and then apparently rewrite my emails if I'm a complete moron, as their advertising campaign shows. Where do you sort of see AI within the future of our industry, and what are the realistic expectations we can have of it?
Oh yeah, there are quite some challenges in the industry that really offer AI based solutions a good chance. Like one, as you know, I'm also very much connected to digital sheet music, digital scores. There, it was always a huge challenge to really merge, to really find the bridge between the paper and the digital scores. And we have found that bridge since long with OCR, optical character recognition, that helped as long as not everybody wrote everything on a keyboard. It helped in translating a printed like letter, whatever it was, into a truly digital file. And with the company that I'm affiliated with, Newzik, we developed a technology that was quite a bit of development, like for 2 years or even more. A piece of technology, OMR, optical music recognition, that allows you to, it's this little bit kind of a Harry Potter moment. So you have your printed sheet music, you take a photograph and you press play, and I play it to you. And there, behind there's a huge amount of AI. I mean, the word AI is a bit misleading in both ways. Artificial, because there's this word like art in it, and it has nothing to do with art. Artificial in German is künstliche Intelligenz, very difficult. And intelligence, which is even more misleading, because we're really not talking about intelligence. We are talking about algorithms, highly complex algorithms that can also to a certain extent learn. That's true, but this is not what intelligence, what makes people intelligent. So that's totally different, totally different world. It takes me always by surprise, because behind this concept of artificial intelligence is an idea of intelligence that dates back maybe to the Scottish Enlightenment or whatever, where people thought we will be able to build machines to recreate everything. So this idea that intelligence is a machine that can be then also, of course, outsourced from the brain and put up as a machine that then does intelligence. But I mean, certainly already before, but certainly with people like Sigmund Freud, we know that intelligence and the human brain and the human like intellect is something so entirely diametrical opposite to a machine, that it's a funny idea that a machine or an algorithm could ever be able to create something that has anything to do with intelligence. So this is a little bit of thing. But where the chance is, the powerful algorithms and self-learning algorithms can perform tasks like in an OMR, literally millions of pages of printed music, and try to transform that or transfer that into a digital score. You could possibly do that with human beings, but you'd need like hundreds of thousands of people doing nothing else but years long that thing, and that's ridiculous. So this is I saw that as a perfect application for AI. Now, there are several others, of course, other like things like abbreviation, or replace everything that is complicated with everything that is simple. So all that kind of thing, that's really nice, and we'll see that. Another really difficult task for technology is to follow music. Like in a self-driving car, this kind of synthetic segmentation of an image. Imagine a 180-degree picture without knowing anything. What is a tree? What is a car? What is a biker? What is a person walking? So what is street? What is sky? I mean, it's all just like colors. And so you have to teach the technology that drives your car to really recognize all those things. This has been done until now manually. So people sitting there on a 30 frames per second video and drawing lines around objects and saying, this is a tree, this is a car, and very similar. You know that from Zoom or Teams. You can blur the background.
Yeah.
Yes, have fun, because if you raise your hand will be, distorted. If you raise a coffee mug, the coffee mug won't exist, because there were not like thousands of people having drawn those lines, but it really has been done manually. So that just is utterly impossible, or only with, armies of people, to teach a technology, an algorithm, a computer, to listen to music and to follow the music according to score and to turn pages automatically, for example. So it's in an orchestra. So sit at the viola section, and then you don't hear Glazunov 4. You only hear 3 or 4 instruments playing something. So it's incredibly complex. And now here AI definitely also helps. And I've seen technology that just emerges, and it seems as if it works. London Symphony Orchestra has already done in March, I think, so not long ago, a first test where the technology follows the live played music and cues cameras, so that fully automated, like 6 or 8 remote control cameras are cued by a technology that is able to follow the music, the live music played by an orchestra. So that's, for example, something that I think, and then there are quite some such kind of entry points where this kind of technology can, of course, be extremely helpful. I am not afraid at all about anything that has to do anything with creativity. So nothing. I've heard some, and I've seen some, and I'm constantly talking with friends that are totally convinced that will come. I'm totally convinced that it won't. It will not. It will come, and it is already there, with a lot of music that until now didn't require much intelligence. So there's hours and years of music out there that we hear everywhere, in the elevator, in a shopping mall, wherever, like this thing. And I think this will be replaced by AI, or is already. I don't even know. I listen to that, and it would be hard to decide whether that's AI or a human being that wrote that music.
Certainly, it's could be a whole 2-hour conversation itself, and it's such a wide scoping one. I think you're really right to point out this goes back historically to things like the Scottish Enlightenment, and we tend to think AI is a new thing, but then Google Maps on your phone is technically AI, or to bring up chess again, the original computer that beat a human is AI. So these things are ever evolving.
Yeah.
On the art side of things, I was fascinated. There was a case last year where a creator has found a way of replicating artists' voices, so you could put in words or a song and it would sound like it. Mm-hmm. And it was an AI song of Drake, so an AI, this rap artist.
Yes, I read that, yes, of course.
And Universal filed a copyright claim, but then at the end of the day, it's Universal, not Drake, filing it. Do Universal own his voice? So there's a really interesting sort of philosophical questions that come out of this. But before I get fully distracted by that, you brought up digital sheet music, and that is one of our common points with an app company called Newzik that I also used way back in 2017, 2018, of all things.
Oh, yeah, early adopter.
Early adopter, which then brings me on to my next question, that with these things, there's so much potential. And when I was trying out the digital sheet music, it was why isn't everyone using this?
Yeah.
How, with things like the sheet music and also the innovation you were doing inside the organization and creating pathways, how do you bring an organization along that may not also be wanting to do it? Because I found that usually it's the people who are doing this work love it, but the wider organization may not understand or have the awareness or really want to change.
First of all, often institutions, organizations are blamed for being so slow and for being so not reactive and not innovative and whatever. But just imagine they weren't. So just imagine the big organizations, the big opera houses, big theaters, the big concert halls, whatever in arts. Let's just talk about arts. Would not be like preservative and conservative in the sense of conserving also things, but would just be open and innovative. And so every second day there would be a new exhibition, every day, every evening a new work in the opera, every 2 weeks a new opera. So people just would, composers, painters, sculptors, whatever, would just walk in and put out whatever. So it's because the institution is open, the resources of the institutions are here to be used. Imagine, I mean, within like a year, latest, nobody would ever walk into such an institution anymore, because you'd get mad. And so think it a little bit through, and after a minute or so, you see that those institutions have to be conservative, that it's a good thing that they have filters. It's a good thing that they don't put just up whatever comes along. Even though, of course, the criteria and the filters can be debated. Of course, and this is an important debate, an important conversation, in which as many people as possible should take place, but they have to put in place this kind of filter. So that institutions are, also companies to a certain extent, are conservative and have long decision horizons and are sometimes really boring, whatever, has a meaning, and it's not for nothing. So this is one thing. And so then change also, if we talk about sheet music, we are talking about the heart of this entire undertaking. So that's what it is, you know. You get the music on in the form of a kind of a sheet, and then hundreds of people are taking that into their hands and starting to work. So what happens in an opera house, in an orchestra, is always based on that. And so that all those institutions and people working in the institutions are at first skeptical and are trying to really understand what it means and to really understand what the consequences are before they adopt it. So that's no surprise. So just to start with that, and then with every innovation, whatever you do, wherever you do, in a company, in a cultural institution, in your family, whatever, in every context, you innovate. You do something, meaning you do something differently than it has been done before. It will happen only if you can explain to everybody who will be affected by that innovation where her or his benefits will be. So it has to be beneficial, and people have to understand the benefits. So when, for example, working in La Scala in Milan or in Vienna State Opera, so in these huge, big institutions, 1,000 people in the workforce, you do a project that affects like 300, 400, 500 people. Digital sheet music, easily 400, 500 people. Orchestra, choir, stage orchestra, repetitors, stage management, ballet, technical departments. Everybody works with music. So you walk through all those departments, you talk to all those people, you sit next to them, you watch what they're doing with music, and then you tell them what their benefit will be. And if you can't find a benefit for this one person, then rethink your project. Because probably you have not seen something. Probably there is something missing. Sometimes, very rarely only, it will happen that a person in such an organization is affected by that innovative, whatever thing it is, innovation, and will not enjoy a benefit. Then at a certain point you have to say, sorry, Mark or Patricia, but for you, I just couldn't find a benefit. But unfortunately, you have to change also. You have to go with us because it's just not possible to keep the old ways for you. So this is a very, very important, it's not a strategy. This is something that you have to really take into your heart and make the basis of what you're doing. If not, you won't get far with innovation. And so this would be my like the more like basic answer, the underlying answer. And then if it comes then to the concrete like measures that you take, yes, that's sometimes complex and sometimes not easy. But also there, it's interesting in big organizations, but certainly also in smaller, but the bigger there, where we've been working for quite a while now. It's the next task is, or as important, you go through all these institutions and talk to people, and you will find, yes, some that are reluctant, that are skeptical, that make your life a little bit difficult, whatever. But you will find many in these institutions who say, finally somebody's coming here, and finally somebody's looking at what I'm doing. I sit here since 10 years. I have so many ideas how to improve the workflows, for example, or how to bring in something new. Finally, there is somebody to talk to, and then you find those evangelists, and you'll find them in every department, and you find them as your liaisons wherever, and they'll push the projects.
Fantastic. I think it's such incredible advice of bringing along people on this journey, and it's I think the idea of it being benefit-led is a really powerful tool that really centres things. A slight pivot, but there's a topic I'd love to throw at you, and it's a concept called Google Zero, which I'm not sure you may have heard of. It's a term coined by a tech publication called The Verge.
Yes.
And the idea is, in essence, it's that upcoming soon will be the death of the search age on the internet. And that with the increased number of advertising placements on search results, and also the increase of now AI
SEO,
overviews,
search engine optimization.
Yes. So basically that when you go into Google now, for example, it's a pretty garbage experience. You get spammed by all the adverts in advance or an AI overview, and the thing you want is further down. The concept in essence is that the worse this gets, eventually traffic from search to your website is going to be zero, hence Google Zero. And I wonder if you had any thoughts around maybe what the internet might look like in a world beyond search, or the impact on arts organizations for that.
There's a really funny thing behind it. It's that often when I'm talking to people, so people would say, I'm using this or I'm using that service. And then you say, interesting, okay. What do you pay for it? And people say, pay? What? It's for free. I say, interesting. Interesting that it's for free. Streaming data to your phone, like videos to your phone, hours. I mean, I know what that costs. I mean, we set up the streaming platforms for Vienna State Opera, for La Scala, for other venues. You know that it costs money to send, to stream content to people, for example, or that it costs money to keep up a messaging platform. I mean, that's not for nothing. There are hundreds, thousands of people working behind WhatsApp, whatever. So people say, no, I don't pay. So then, but who pays? Who? I mean, somebody has to pay. And those people even earn money. I mean, not a little. So it's profitable even. So then it explained to them how they pay. And at this moment, they pay with their data. That's the currency. So people in full consciousness pay for services with their data. And then they complain that those data are exploited, like being targeted by ads. So that's totally illogical, of course. And my dream world is that people realize that those services are worth something, and that they can also, and there are niches in the internet where you can't choose either to pay or to have ads, but as a principle to say, okay, this is a service that is run, and this is I benefit from it, and I decide where, and I decide what the added value is, and what I'm able to, what I'm willing, and able maybe also by willing to pay for it. So as soon as that happens, then this way will change, of course. So if I would be offered a search engine where I pay for, like €10 per month or whatever, any kind of thing, then probably that could be run without this, without developing into a garbage bin. So that's probably that would be one logic to escape that seemingly unescapable disaster.
Certainly, it's a really, I think, interesting moment, and we've seen the rise of some paid search engines. I think it's Kari is one of them, Kari.
Yes, I heard about it, but I have to confess that I don't complain. I'm using like DuckDuckGo or whatever.
Yes,
but I don't pay. So.
Yes, it's certainly interesting. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that. There's so much we could talk to. I'm going to fly through some of the questions, so we'll definitely get distracted. But just to touch on, you mentioned about digital platforms there.
Yes.
And I'm always fascinated by this sort of juxtaposition of, I should have my own digital platform as an organisation, I should put everything on the internet for free on YouTube, or I should give it all to a Netflix-style platform like Medici TV, etc. What do you see as the benefits for an organisation having its own digital platform?
So that starts with the funny idea that a digital platform would only be successful if it earns money. And that's a funny idea because we don't consider an opera house or a concert or an orchestra or whatever only successful if it earns money. So why would the criteria for success in the one case be money, and the other case be reach, responsibility, relevance for the society, whatever? So this is what also in Vienna State Opera was, of course, our main driver to set that up, and is for La Scala. It's not to earn money. It's nice to have some of the viewers that also pay for something. Why shouldn't they pay for content online when they pay for tickets in the hall? So I don't see the logic that the streaming should be for free and the tickets in the venue would cost money. So for me, that's very clear. But the other thing is that you set such a platform up for such an institution, for example, also to create an archive. In Vienna, we've created 350 opera and ballet productions as an archive. Imagine, just calculate what amount of public money is invested in cultural institutions in Europe. It's billions and billions and billions. And what percentage, what fraction of that is conserved? What fraction is that would be accessible in 5 years? It's next to nothing, since the TV stations, the national TV broadcasters have stopped recording. So archive. Then in Vienna State Opera, very soon, if you have this technology in the house, it costs you nothing to produce, or very, very little amount of money. So we produced educational content for schools. We connected to 700 schools all over Austria very regularly. So it was just me and a dramaturg walking on stage, and we all had the cameras. We're all there. So we had a nice colleague in the studio, like following us a little bit. But I mean, it's not like an opera production with 1,000 cuts in the video edition. It's like just following us, seeing us talking. So we would invite classrooms to a rehearsal, talk a little bit about the rehearsal, then they would see the rehearsal for half an hour, and then we would invite them to see the full opera a week later. What about outreach into niches in the society that you hardly reach, bringing them really to the venue? What about people like in Vienna, also in La Scala, we had many subscribers, and I have a book full of letters where people write, I'm an opera lover since long. I can afford going to the opera 2 times per year, because it's like, if I go with my wife, it's like 2 times per year on a decent seat, it'll be 500 euro, which is a lot. And so I spend these 500 euro not on a contemporary piece. I spend it on a Traviata and on a Don Giovanni. Now, with this service that I can enjoy more or less all the productions for a few euro, I'm also watching the productions that I would never buy a ticket. So people, reaching out or opening up your catalog, also your repertoire, to people that would not buy tickets for that. So that's just some of the many reasons to do such a thing, apart from just selling some online subscriptions. And then there's another for me a really important aspect for maybe not putting up your own platform, but certainly dealing with your content in a more conscious manner, meaning that houses or producers of any kind, but let's say in classical music, let's say in our world, putting out content on YouTube. Yeah. So I ask opera houses, what do you pay for YouTube for putting it out? Because you know that setting up a platform, downstream, like 3 GB per viewer for some kind of opera, what do you pay for that? They say, pay? I use YouTube because I don't pay. Then they say, as we've discussed before, who pays? And then it's very easy to explain that they pay with their data. So they have no contact to their immediate audience. And Google or YouTube or whatever platform you use starts monetizing on that content in the very second that you push start. So the first thing that you see is an ad by Deutsche Grammophon or whatever, if you're lucky. I mean, I have images, I have like videos where content from Vienna State Opera that we sometimes, very rarely, put out on Facebook or YouTube, we saw an ad for the far right wing party in Austria, So that's monetization. And this is why I was always fighting against putting out this kind of content on those platforms. So donating billions of European taxpayers who care for those operas and for those orchestras and who finance all those productions, donating that money to Google, or to whatever platform, so that they can monetize on this. So I don't really see an advantage. I know. I mean, when we started in 2013, that was really difficult to set up a streaming platform. It was really difficult. When we did it in Milan now, we started development in 2020 and we launched it in 22, I think, if I remember correctly. It was far easier already. Far easier. So nowadays, it's really not difficult to set up such a thing and to do it in a way. You don't have to ask for money. Why? But you can ask for a registration. Yeah. You put it on your platform and you put it and Mannheim or Karlsruhe or Lyon or Toulouse or Göteborg. Nobody thinks that they will sell their 468th Traviata to a global audience, but they will reach out to their public. They will reach out to their community. They will connect to their subscribers. They will establish a stronger relationship with their public. Also, certainly if they are not charging for it, but they can identify or they can establish a direct connection with their patrons. Say, look, I mean, you have seen those 3 Baroque opera streams. We'll put something up in 6 months' time. So buy your ticket now, whatever.
Certainly, I guess that idea of being able to keep in touch, if it is those 2 live performances a year, you may know where you may get lost in the ether between those periods and things and forgotten about, whereas it's a great way of doing it. But really fascinating points. And I guess, as you say as well, like it's now easier. Things like Vimeo OTT is a platform that people can use. It's a great way forwards. So just to bring it back to why we're here in Dubai, we are, before I get completely distracted by digital, we're at the Classic Vinyl Olympus. We have 12 competitors here who are competing for an awards. I'm fascinated as well that it's not just organisations who are traversing this new digital world. It's the individuals, the musicians as well.
Yeah.
With people like the competitors, what do you see as the role of the musician in this digital world, and what skills do they need to really thrive?
Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, this is really, that's really difficult. Because I hear often the talk that nowadays it's more important to be skilled on social media than on the piano keyboard or on the violin. I don't think so. So yes, it's true that that probably it is important for artists also to be present and to exist on digital platforms. But still, if we talk about this niche that we are now in, so this classical music thing, then certainly still it's more important to have something to tell, and to have the technical possibilities and talent and what you need to tell this story on the instrument they've chosen to play. So that has not much changed, I think. Probably it's more difficult to transmit this through a camera than in a hall, but that hasn't changed. I mean, that was the same thing before. It was just more difficult and more expensive to present yourself also on other platforms like in TV. I mean, you are young, but still you might remember the times when you had like 3 or 5 TV programs.
Sadly, yes.
Sadly, yes. Yes, I mean, you say sadly, that's true. But on the other end, you had 60 million people in Germany. Now it's 80, but at that time it was 60. You had 7 million people in Austria. You had 7 million in Switzerland. And you had a cake of money, more or less, being available for that, be it public money for the public broadcasters, be it also already ad money for the, or whatever, wherever they got their money from for the private channels. But this money was divided by 5, let's say, by the 5 channels. Now, this money hasn't much increased. I mean, a little bit maybe, but not much. But now it's divided by 500 channels that are out there. So, of course, every minute of content is worth much less. And so that money just doesn't anymore exist. On the other hand, there are 500 channels now, plus the social media, 500 channels where you can present your content. So the content itself might be worth less, but it's easier to bring it out. So for me, I see more the advantage of being able to make you seen. And I think it's also a good discussion maybe that's not even a discussion, it's just a development, that this world is more fragmented. So we are more aware of something that was always the case, which is that art has a time and location element, so to speak. It was always stupid to say an artist is only an artist if he was known all over the world. An artist is only an artist if he's known all the time, which is ridiculous. I mean, Mozart wasn't played for 50 years in the 19th century, and then he came back. So was he not an artist?
Yeah.
1836, when there was no performance? It's ridiculous, totally. So it's important to see that people can be artists in a certain time, at a certain place, and then that can change. So this idea of genius that would always find its way through to the public or whatever, that's bullshit, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
So, and if you take that into consideration, then it's nice that people can build their own communities. They can build their own, even not geographically limited, interest groups. They can push out and present their art and fulfill that claim that they are artists, also in this kind of here and then and there and when. So for me, that's a good thing. Yeah. What we are doing here, of course, is still always that will exist, and that's good. Like the conservative institutions that also are places where then another kind of filter is deciding what will be shown. There are, of course, there is, let's call it the archive, also the living archive, where you enter also on different levels. So this competition here says and aims at establishing really an over-regional, let's say, and over like only momental. You say that in English? You can say that momental for something being just in the moment.
Yeah.
Momentan in German.
Momentary.
Momentary.
Yeah.
Geographically, international, and time-wise not momentary. Quality.
Yeah.
So this is what this competition wants to be, an element of this process that then also establishes something as or somebody as an artist that on a larger scale for a longer time. Let's say it like this, you know. So this is nice, and then you always have to develop your own methods and your own procedures to do this, and you have to justify those procedures, and you have to push them through also the public. So the public has to believe you. This competition is really, it's organized well. It has a good procedure. It has an interesting range of people invited, and the outcome of it will be accepted as contributing to this new archive of globally respected artists on a high level. So that's a little bit of the philosophy behind.
That sounds fantastic. Well, speaking of judging, you have to dash off and judge in a second. So I've just got two final quick fire questions, and presidential debate style, maximum 60-second answers for both of them. And these are the questions that I ask everybody. So I'm fascinated to hear your answers. Yeah. If you could change one thing in the industry, what would it be and why?
In the classical music industry, you mean? Stop recording and create so many venues and options to listen to music live that really everybody that wants to can.
Fantastic. Really good answer. And a real positive one to end on. What gives you hope for the future of classical music, and where do you see opportunity?
That's very easy, I think. It's that classical music has been declared dead for so long that I don't believe in any such declaration. And I see it thriving. I see it being there still. I see full houses. I see all this atmosphere. And yes, I see also the recordings, and I see how people enjoy them in many different ways.
I'd like to thank Christopher Widauer for taking the time to join me on the podcast, and thank you for listening. If you'd like to let me know what you think to the podcast, any requests for topics, or in fact anything else, you can email david@david-taylor.org or reach out on LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, or Blue Sky. You can find links to all of these at david-taylor.org. If you like the podcast, please share it with your friends and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'll see you next time.